Yes, there's back with another video. So yeah, let's look back to the Fulham game. Obviously, woof, won 21 wins at the moment. Remember, I've been talking about this needing to win like 28, having like 28 wins in the season. If we have that, I feel like if we can get to 28 wins, I'm not sure if Man City can get there because when I'm looking at the fixtures right now, if we win 7 of our last 11 games, we can get 28 wins. But Man City have to win what 9 of their last 11 games for them to get that. And the game, and obviously Arsenal and City have to play each other, so therefore we can directly affect the amount of games that they can actually win. But there's a possibility that we can actually get 7 or 8 wins of them. If you look at our fixtures, we've got what? I'm looking at the fixtures now. We've got Palace, Leeds, Liverpool, West Ham, Southampton, City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton, Forest, and Wolves. I think if you look, obviously, just on paper alone, there's 7 and 8 wins there for us to get out of 11. Of course, it doesn't always translate, especially getting close to the end of the season. The experience factor, the fact that we're chasing a title, some players might start to dip in form or losing confidence. Like the moment can get to them, the pressure of chasing the title, all of those stuff are all involved, and you can see obviously like when you look at Man City, for example, and you look at their recent wins, they're looking very calm. Because at the end of the day, they're the more experienced team of the two of us. They're looking very calm, very relaxed. They're not losing their composure or nothing like that. But what I do think about when we go to City, I feel like not losing to Man City is a must. We have to make sure that we don't lose to them, whatever the case may be. We need to make sure we get a draw. Because even when I look at some of the things, even when I look at like the Fulham game, and I see some people saying stuff about or we're better away from home and stuff like that. If you look at our results away and at home, at the moment we've only lost 1 game at home and drawn 2, and away we've lost what 2 games away and we've drawn 1. So I feel like we're really good either way, both home and away. We're good. The fixtures, obviously, we have some difficult fixtures like Man City away, Liverpool away, and things like that. But at the end of the day, man, I feel like it's just going to be key going into this thing. And I've said before, like leading to these things, I think we played with the previous games we played Everton, now we played Fulham, we got Palace and Leeds. I said we need to use these games to get back into our groove because at the end of the day, we're going to start going into the games against Man City, Liverpool, Newcastle, Brighton, which are the more difficult games on paper. And we need to be back in form. And when you look at the Fulham game, it looks like we're actually back to where we were before, back to our form. We played really well. That game was beautiful. We had probably one of our best halves that we've had this whole season. It was an incredible half of football. Because when you think about the way we tried to play and our style of football, for me, everything came together in that game. When you think about like how we try to build up play, if you think about like the second goal, for example, that's how we like to play. Building up play from the back, beating the opposition's press, getting the ball into the final third, and then creating situations with our zonal attacks. Obviously, in our attack, we have players in each zones. We have a player in the left wing zone, the left half space, the striker zone, the right half space, and the right wing. And we always have 5 players in each of these zones. For this game, we had Trossard on the left, Xhaka in the left half space, Martinelli up front, Odegaard in the right half space, and then Saka on the right wing stretching. So we had both wingers stretching the pitch. And for this game, I feel like, or especially for that second goal for me was the epitome of how Arteta wants to play his football. We started off the build-up play from all the way on the right-hand side. Great ball retention from Saka on the side there when he was about to lose the ball. And then you got Saliba switching the ball to Granit Xhaka, who was waiting on the left side. One important thing about how we like to play under Arteta is, yes, we stretch the pitch with the wingers stretching the pitch. Yeah, but at the same time, you also have the players who play in the half space, which is the 2 centre mids, which is Xhaka and Odegaard. They also stretch the pitch as well. That's one important thing that we don't that maybe isn't mentioned too much. It's not just the wingers are stretching the pitch, but also the centre mids are stretching the pitch. So you have Xhaka staying very far on the left, and you have Odegaard staying very far on the right. Of course, once we get into the final third, they start to collapse into each other and start to become a bit more narrow as they attack more space because the opposition are going to become more compact the closer you get to the box. But in the build-up play, when you're starting from deep especially, you are going to be stretching the pitch. That way, teams can't just press you. It's easier for the teams to press. When we're building a play, our back four and our back five, in terms of like the 3 centre-backs, which is Gabriel, Saliba and Ben White, who tucks in there. And then you got Zinchenko and Partey, who also tuck into midfield. They can be compact because they want to bounce the ball off each other. But they're going to be compact, but they're going to create angles at the same time. So Zinchenko and Partey give those kind of angles in terms of like ahead of the 3 centre-backs, one to the left, one to the right-hand side, just to give us a bit more space so if teams start to press us, we can bypass their press and get the ball to our midfielders, which in possession are midfielders in deep areas in Zinchenko and Partey. As you saw with the video where I mentioned about how Zinchenko and Partey are really good double pivot in terms of progressing the ball into the final third. And then you got Ben White who's giving you an angle on the right hand side, Gabriel who's giving you the angle on the left hand side, and then you got Saliba right in the middle there, who's the option there for Ramsdale to release the ball. So when you look at our build-up play, everyone was in their shape and compact, and then Saliba switched the ball to Xhaka. The reason why if Xhaka was a lot more narrow, then once he gets the ball, he would already be in the same pressing space as the other Fulham players who were trying to press us. But because Xhaka is stretching the pitch on the left-hand side and making himself available on the left, therefore, once Saliba switched that ball to him, he was in open space, and you saw him just constantly run up the pitch, and then got the ball to Martinelli, got the ball to Trossard, and then that's what led to the second goal where we didn't cross the ball, and then Martinelli got the header. A similar kind of thing, but it wasn't the same kind of build-up. But we got with Gabriel Martinelli switching with Trossard on the left hand side to then get the ball cut back to Odegaard. But that's just basically the shape, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like for me, the second goal was just basically like an epitome of how Arteta wants us to play in the build-up play. Very compact whilst we're deep. Players in the angles that they need to be, creating passing lanes for each other. The midfielders stretching the pitch, the wingers stretching the pitch at the same time. But then as we get into the final third, everyone starts to attack the zones in the final third, and that's how we got the goal. The second goal. Obviously, Trossard got 3 assists in that game, so that's great for him as well. But for me, as I mentioned already, incredible half of football for me. For me, Trossard was man of the match. I think Gabriel and Partey also played had great performances, especially Partey. For me, Partey's just a monster, man. Like I said before already, man, the guy's unbelievable. In possession, defensively, getting the ball from back to front, as well as Zinchenko, his partner in that sense. And yeah, man, he was just great in there. Gabriel was all the same thing, cemented his performance with a header as well, and he got the first goal. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about as well, it was just when you think about like in the transfer market, how it all happened. We wouldn't have got Trossard if not for Mudryk, and we wouldn't have got Zinchenko if not for Martinez falling apart. Leandro Martinez falling apart. And when you think about how that all went, it just seems as though the alternatives have turned out a lot better than what the first targets would have been. Because when you think about what Trossard has actually changed for us, like his impact, and I'm going to speak about again. I'm going to speak about further how Trossard's impact, like in central areas, how similar it is to Gabriel Jesus. I'll speak about that in a separate video. But in terms of what Trossard has done, I'm not seeing Mudryk having that kind of ability to do the same thing. Maybe long term, that's something he'll be able to do. But for the short term, as we're chasing this title, Trossard has been able to replicate a lot of what Gabriel Jesus was giving us in terms of the movement to the wide areas and also dropping into the central areas to give us more. Because when you see how teams double up on our wingers, which is what they've been doing recently, there is space in the middle, and that's what Gabriel Jesus was using in the first half of the season. But we're starting to see Trossard use this kind of space, and you saw that even for the assist that the near assist that he nearly got for Xhaka when Odegaard found Trossard deep, and then he quickly cut the ball back into Xhaka, who then got the ball. But you're seeing a lot more movement in behind, and a lot more movement in behind from deep and from the wide areas, just because of Trossard's movement dropping into the central areas where there's space in there, into the wide areas, pulling defenders out of position. But when you think about it, it's like even when you look at Zinchenko, for example, and you think like what he's doing for us in the build-up play, that's not something that Martinez, who right now is at United, is going to be able to do. Martinez is purely a centre-back, he's purely a defender. He's not someone who's going to be able to receive the ball in midfield or higher up the pitch and start to build up play. But it's like, so it makes it a bit difficult for me to understand how we went from looking at Martinez to looking at Zinchenko, or how we went from looking at Mudryk to looking at Trossard, because they provide very, very different things. But they got very, very different tools, but what the alternative signings have provided for us look more important than what the first options would have probably provided. Because at the end of the day, what Zinchenko is offering us in midfield and being a guy who can progress the ball into the final third seems to me like it would be more useful than what Martinez is offering to United in terms of being obviously he will be a better defender. In terms of left back, he wouldn't be overlapping. He would just be distributing the ball from the left hand side. But when I'm looking at what Zinchenko is doing, for me, I don't think Martinez is able to do that kind of things in the final third. I know he will be able to build up play from deep, but he wouldn't be able to do that sort of things in the final third. But yeah, more the other stuff to also go on about again was just obviously it's just nice to see that we got Gabriel Jesus back. The same way we got Smith Rowe returning as well. All of them coming back from injuries, and like I've said already, then the last 9 games, not even the last 11, the last 9 games on paper, those games are going to be very, very difficult, just based off the teams we're playing, and then as well as the last 2 games. Might be Forest and Wolves, but these are going to be pressure games. So all of those games are going to be really, really key, really important, and we need to get back in the groove, as I keep on saying, to get back into the momentum. We've still got Palace and Leeds, who on paper could be easier games to win. We just need to get back into great performances, get all these players back from injuries. International break happens, and we all get all the players are back fit and ready to play I'm ready for the last 9 games of the season. Another thing also that I want to mention as well is I think is the aspect of rotating in the Europa League. Again, like I said before about the Europa League thing, for me, I'm not concerned about Europa League whatsoever. I obviously saw the interview of Arteta where he's saying the players, like for example, Saka was the example that was being used, need to learn how to play every 3 days because we're going to be in the Champions League. But at the end of the day, Europa League is not the Champions League. We haven't won a title in 19 years. I'm not willing to risk the opportunity of a player getting injured or players being fatigued and players not being able to get back to their best in the league title over the weekend because of a game on the weekend on Thursday in the Europa League. And it would be nice to win the Europa League and to win the title in the same season. I think it was something that AVB did when he was in Porto. It would be nice. It would be nice to have something like that. But for me, like Europa League is not prestigious enough for me to feel like we're gonna risk a title. We haven't won a title since '04, 19 years ago. This is a very, very big chance for us to win the title this season. We're in the lead. I'm not willing for us to be risking injuries and risking fatigue and all these sort of things just because of the Europa League. Of course, it is what it is. We obviously rotated some players, but to see some players play like long spells in a game, like Saka, for example, Ben White, for me, it's just a massive risk that I just don't see the point in justifying that kind of risk to play in the Europa League. For me, I don't see it because the only thing you get from Europa, yes, of course, it's nice if you can win it. If we get to the finals, fair play, but it's not something like if we have a crucial game on the weekend, I'm not looking to us. I'll rather the players were rested and ready to play. Of course, you have like you want the players to maintain their momentum and keep on playing. That's the key thing as well. You don't want them too rested. You want need them to keep the momentum. But I'm very sure there's ways you can do that in training as well. There's ways to simulate these kind of things in training whereby you don't have to risk the players' fatigue, injuries, and all that kind of things. Because at the end of the day, winning this league title is more important than any single thing. But yeah.